Okay, one fed cat and letting that wash get mostly dry later. You can see how the colors kind of bled down, mixed together a little bit. So that's our background. Now I kind of want to put in some different details over top. Now the beautiful thing about watercolor is it's a transparent medium, meaning you can see through it. That's why we can still see the pencil marks and everything. I have also changed brushes, a lot of smaller brushes for detail work. Okay, I want to do some flesh color or some skin color. Now, a lot of you who are painting for the first time or using watercolor for the first time, or even if you were coloring with crayons or colored pencils, use something called peach. Well, here's the watercolor equivalent, flesh tint. Now, you could paint that straight on and, look all right. But if you mixed burnt sienna, raw umber, or burnt umber with flesh tint, you're going to get a more realistic skin tone. So, I added to my palette, get that on screen, some burnt sienna and some flesh tint. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this brush right here, if I get it on screen, if I prop the camera up just slightly here, there we go. This brush right here, dip it in the water. I'm then going to come over to my palette, which somehow has a hair on it now. I'm going to come over to the palette. I'm going to take some of the flesh tint, mix it up, then mix in my burnt sienna and mix it together just like that. You can see just a little bit of water help that go very, very crazy. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. Okay. I'm going to take the new fleshy color and bring it down a little bit. I'm going to paint certain areas of the skin. I'm going to take my time because while the paper is drier, it's not completely dry just yet. So I'm going to spread some of this color thusly. And since you can see through it, see that it is transparent, I'm going to follow my lines as best as I can. I'm not painting everything. I'm trying generally to get some shadows in here. I'm trying to follow the contour of my lines, or the shape of my lines. For those of you that generally don't speak art geek as frequently as I do. Every once in a while I'll add a little bit more water just to spread the color out. Alright, so we're going to mix things up a little bit. I'm going to set this brush to the side. I'm going to use one of my smaller brushes for the finer detail work, and let's use some of this. Let's use some of my green that I put down here. We're just going to carefully, that's too much. There we go. Now, see, that's very important right there. See that I put a little too much on there. So I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel. I'm going to dab the extra off. Okay. Alright, let's move to something with a little bit more flexibility. And let's go to, let's mix a little of the lemon yellow and our crimson together. Let's bring that up here, adding a little bit more water. I'm not painting the entire surface because I want some of my wash to be left alone. You can see that the brush is kind of scraping along. This is called dry brushing. I'm going to add some of my more pure red here. Making sure to add some water. It's a little bit of liquid watercolor goes an exceptionally long way. Bring some of this up here too. Just dry brush it in. Okay, now I want to start creating a little bit darker color, so I'm going to get my raw umber, which is a very, very dark brown. I'm going to use my bigger brush again. Dry my brush a little bit. Tiny bit more raw umber and see how it's spreading. This is what we want the paper to dry quite a bit before we start adding new colors. Otherwise you wouldn't have as much control and it'd be something called wet on wet painting. Okay. I'm going to let this dry for a second and then I will be right back.